Let's be clear right away. Goodwill is insufficient to get by in this world. You're living in a fiction if you believe that success can be attained simply by being a good person. What's the worst? Despite your refusal to accept it, you know it deep down. How often do you feel like people are stepping all over you? How many times have you acted morally only to be disregarded or, worse, taken advantage of? You've been taught that virtue is sufficient, that dignity and honesty are rewarded. However, the truth is different. Those who know how to play their cards skillfully are rewarded by the world, not the good. This is where Machiavelli comes in. He understood something that most people ignore. Human nature is selfish, fickle, and, when necessary, cruel. In The Prince, he made it clear that virtue without cunning is a weakness, that goodness without strategy is a trap. Now tell me, how many times have you fallen into that trap? Think about those you admire, those who have achieved great things. Do you think they got there only with good intentions? Number. They got there because they knew how to move in the shadows when necessary. They understood that morality is not an obstacle, but a tool. Knowing when to show it and when to hide it is the difference between being a player and being a pawn. The problem is not that you are good. The problem is that you don't know how to protect yourself. You believe that others are playing by the same rules as you, but they're not. The world is full of predators disguised as friends, of opportunists who can spot naivety from miles away, and you, without realizing it, have been the perfect target. This is where Machiavelli offers you an alternative: intelligent kindness. It's not about becoming a villain. It's not about betraying your principles. It's about understanding that kindness must be accompanied by a deep understanding of reality. It's about learning to read people, to foresee their intentions, to know when to trust and when to keep your guard up. Machiavelli said that it is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. And you? What have you chosen? Surely you've chosen to be loved, to be accepted, to be seen as harmless. But tell me, what have you gained from that? Not respect, not power. What you've gained is the knowledge that others can use you without consequence. Because kindness without strength doesn't inspire admiration, it inspires pity. Don't get confused. I'm not telling you to stop being good. I'm telling you to learn how to be good without being naive. Understand that the world doesn't reward the just, it rewards the shrewd. True virtue is not submission, but the ability to balance ethics with pragmatism. Machiavelli taught that image is everything. It's not only about what you are, but also about what others perceive you to be. If you give the impression of being weak, they will treat you as weak. If you give the impression of being strong, they will treat you with respect. How many times have you allowed others to disrespect you out of fear of losing their approval? How many times have you stayed silent to avoid conflict, only to realize that this makes you lose more than you gain? It's not about being cruel, it's about being strategic. The key is knowing when to act, when to speak, when to retreat, and when to strike. When used properly, kindness may be a strength, but if you allow it to run amok, it can turn into your deadliest enemy. Many good people make the error of believing that purity of heart is valued by the world. It doesn't. The ability to make difficult judgments, power, and security are valued globally. Only when kindness is accompanied by authority is it respected. Your good intentions are meaningless if you lack authority. Do not be a lamb in a world full of wolves, as Machiavelli would advise. Don't let your morals to make you a slave. True virtue is understanding, not servitude. It's about influencing the environment to your advantage rather than passively adapting. Think about it. How much longer will you let the world walk all over you? How much longer will you be a victim of your own naivety? I'm not telling you to stop being good. I'm telling you to start being good in a way that benefits you. Learn to move in the shadows when necessary. Know when to smile and when to show your teeth, because the world isn't fair, but you can learn to play by its rules and still remain true to yourself. Machiavelli didn't write The Prince to teach you to be evil. He wrote it to teach you how to survive. And now tell me, are you going to keep living in the illusion that kindness is enough? Or are you going to start applying true intelligence? Power and influence don't come to those who wait for fairness. They come to those who understand that fairness is an illusion crafted by the powerful to keep the naive in check. The moment you start seeing through this illusion, you'll begin to realize that being strategic is not a betrayal of your values. It's the only way to uphold them. A wise ruler, as Machiavelli would say, does not rely on fortune alone, but on their ability to adapt, to predict, to outmaneuver. Life is not about who is the most virtuous. It is about who knows how to wield virtue as a weapon rather than a shield. The world is filled with stories of those who had noble intentions, but were crushed by those who played the game better. You must decide whether you will be another one of those stories or if you will be the one who writes the rules. The greatest deception is believing that being good will protect you. The truth is, only those who are strong enough to protect their goodness will ever see it truly flourish. Be kind, but be formidable. Be just, but be untouchable. Be wise, but never be naive. Because in the end, survival is not about who is right. It is about who remains standing. To master power, you must first understand the subtle nature of control. Power is not merely about force. It is about influence, perception, and the ability to direct outcomes in your favor. Many fail not because they lack strength, but because they lack foresight. The great leaders of history, the architects of empires, understood that victory is determined long before battle begins. They maneuvered through deception and diplomacy, wielding words like weapons and alliances like shields. To embrace strategic power, you must first abandon the illusion that fairness is universal. The world is not governed by justice, but by those who know how to seize control. A common mistake is believing that integrity alone commands respect. But respect is not given. It is taken, cultivated through action, and reinforced through unshakable confidence. The moment you allow doubt to fester, the moment you hesitate, you lose ground. There is no room for indecision in the realm of power. You must be unwavering, a force of nature that bends circumstances to your will. And that requires mastery over yourself, your emotions, your impulses, and your fears. He who cannot command himself cannot command others. Adaptability is essential for survival. The powerful adapt, learning the game's rules and breaking them when needed, while the weak cling to antiquated ideas of justice. Your decisions today will determine your future. Will you climb, or will you become just another anonymous victim of ignorance? Your ability to embrace strategic power, use your kindness with accuracy, and relentlessly carve your own path will determine the solution. Ultimately, power discloses rather than corrupts.